up and being into tech, there were two main types of tech that I was interested in. Obviously PCs and all the gaming stuff, but the other thing I was interested in was personal audio players. So stuff like mini disc players, two that I've collected that are in pristine working order. But since stuff like iPods and phones have become the de facto music players, there hasn't really been an audio player that has stood out to me. That is until now with this, the Astell&Kern AN Futura SE180. It is probably the most over-engineered, most overkill personal audio player you have ever seen, or rather, that even exists. Let's check it out. As a bit of a heads up, Astell&Kern sent us this unit for review and to keep, but to be honest, right out of the gate, that doesn't impact my thoughts on this digital audio player at all. I want to share my thoughts and feelings from the perspective of someone who both makes music and loves listening to music as well. Now, there's plenty of unboxing videos for this player all over the place, but rather than just doing that, I want to show you how I opened the box and powered the SE180 up for the first time. This is a super premium product and the packaging doesn't say anything other than that. It feels like an occasion. There is nothing about this that feels cheap, because it's not, and I'll come back to that. The player itself is quite heavy and it's about the size of most mid-sized smartphones, but it's about twice as thick. It's got a screen cover on it, and even that, when removing it, feels super premium. Powering on the SE180, you're greeted with the Astell&Kern logo, and after about 15 seconds, it drops you into the language selection screen, and then your time zone. The first thing I notice here is that the touch input feels a little bit slow. That might be because I'm used to a phone with a much higher refresh rate, but I think there is a little bit of input delay. It's got a pretty standard setup process if you compare it to a smartphone, although there's none of the Google stuff here. And if this is looking familiar, then your instincts are correct. The SE180 is running Android. However, the launcher is a custom Astell&Kern audio player and launcher, but we'll dive into that shortly. Spec-wise, the SE180 features an aluminium body with a 5-inch 1080p display with 256 gigs of NAND flash storage, which is expandable with another micro SD card to add up to an additional 1 terabyte of storage in the bottom of the player. There's also a USB Type-C port on the bottom that is made for charging and connecting to your Mac or PC to transfer files, or you can use this as a DAC for your computer as well. The build and construction of the SE180 is near perfect, with little touches like the play and stop button on the side of the player, as well as that mechanical volume dial on the side too. The only downside here is that the corners are very sharp, and yeah, I'd be careful not to stab yourself with this player. Really, you could probably cut stuff with the corner of this thing. It supports most, if not all, of the popular audio formats and codecs right out of the box, and is capable of playing back 384 kHz at 32-bit. That's just scratching the surface though. For audio outputs, it's got an unbalanced 3.5mm jack, a balanced 2.5mm jack with 4 poles, and a balanced 4.4mm jack that supports 5 poles only. The weight is around 280 grams, which I can tell you for a fact for a device of this size is quite dense. It features a quad-core CPU, which isn't documented anywhere. It's probably an older Snapdragon or some type of MediaTek CPU, but who knows? For wireless connectivity, it's got Wi-Fi built in that allows you to connect to the internet for stuff like streaming audio services like Tidal and over-the-air firmware upgrades as well. Since having the SE180 here, it's had 3 updates, so it seems the update schedule is quite frequent. It's got Bluetooth 5.0 and supports every Bluetooth headset and earbuds that I paired it with. The Bluetooth functionality includes A2DP, AVRCP, aptX HD, and LDAC. The battery life is around 8 hours via the 3800 mAh LiPo battery, and it should fast charge in around 3 hours. It doesn't feature any type of wireless charging like Qi charging, so that USB-C on the bottom, that's gonna have to do. The SE180 is part of Astell&Kern's AN Futura lineup, which centers around being modular and flexible. This is a proper bit of audiophile kit. I can already see people saying that there are cheaper options and you should just use your phone, but the truth is, most other devices that I've used over the last few years are kind of underwhelming and frankly just don't have the features of the SE180. Not only that, they just don't have the right feel. Let me explain. The thing that really makes the SE180 stand out aside from all of the specs and numbers that may or may not mean a whole lot to you is the fact that you're not limited to what you get out of the box audio fidelity wise. One huge thing that I've omitted so far is the fact that the DAC on the SE180 can be changed. It's as easy as just sliding it out through the top and then you drop in a new DAC, no screws required. How cool is that? The DAC the SE180 ships with is called the SEM1. It uses an ESS ES9038 Pro. It's an 8-channel DAC that you would typically find in premium home audio and home theater gear. It's no slouch. However, believe it or not, there is a better DAC, and that is the SEM2. The SEM2 doubles down on the quality and features dual AKM AK4497 EQs, and it raises the resolution from 384 kHz to 768 kHz. Okay, that's all well and good, but how does the SE180 sound with music? Now, I've been using this thing non-stop since it arrived with both headphones and wireless earbuds, and on both occasions, the experience is nothing short of spiritual. Even using it with Apple AirPods Pro, the SE180 makes those sound better too. It's really hard to put your finger on, but you kind of need to hear it for yourself. I wish there was some way to translate that feeling of hearing everything spread out all across the soundstage on the SE180. It sounds kind of like you're inside the music, and that's the only way I can really explain it, to be honest. The funny thing is, it didn't matter what earbuds, headphones, or wireless headphones I used, they all sounded better than they should have when they were connected to this than with any other device. And I feel like there's some type of hardware and software trickery going on here. That's because there is. There is so much granular tuning that you can do with the EQ, you can do it with filters and gain settings that it just makes everything sound huge. Not only that, you have so many different ways to listen to music as well. You can add all of your high quality and high res audio files to the SE180 and use the built-in audio player, which in my opinion is the best way to listen to music on the SE180, or you can use services like Tidal that supports MQA audio, which lets you stream music the way they intended you to hear it. Now, I'm not going to get into MQA as a format because there's a lot of politics behind it, but with the SE180, it sounds pretty great. Tidal isn't your only option for streaming services either. You can sideload Spotify with a Spotify APK and it's really easy. In fact, you can sideload a lot of different software this way. Now, as far as Spotify, I had no issues getting it to work, aside from the fact that Google and Facebook authentication does not work. You can set up a device login from your Spotify account that works just fine if you use those login methods, and I actually use the device login anyway, so I had no issues. So what do I think about the SE180 overall? It's a very interesting product. It's got hands down the best audio fidelity of any personal audio player I've ever used. Let me repeat that I've ever used. Me. Just me. I'm sure there are players out there that are better than this still, but there is one huge thing that I haven't talked about yet. The price. All of these features and the modularity of the SE180 does not come cheap, and it's definitely not the audio player for everyone. And not just because of your taste in devices and how this thing looks, I quite literally mean it's not for everyone, because if you're interested in getting your hands on the Astell&Kern AN Futura SE180, you're looking at an entry price of around $1,500 US or around 2,100 Australian dollars at the time of filming. By starting, I mean the SEM2 on its own is around about 349 USD or around 500 Aussie dollars. You'll also want a nice case for it too, which will set you back another 150 US dollars or around 150 Aussie dollars. In total, when the SE180 is fully spec'd out, it'll cost you around 2,000 US dollars or around 2,750 Aussie dollars at the time of filming. Wow, that is super expensive. This is an audio player that someone like Tony Stark would use. It's ridiculously expensive, but at the same time, it's ridiculously cool. It's hard to believe there's a world in which a device like this even exists. Now, I'm glad it does exist because for all its excess, it is a pretty extravagant execution of technology. Love it or hate it, it's here. It exists for those who want some of the best audio fidelity money can buy in your pocket, and I kinda love it. But I'm not Tony Stark, and I could never afford something as cool as this. I didn't do anything to you. She's yelling at me. Why are you yelling? Why are you yelling? You're naughty. See you later, butthole cat. She literally yelled at me. That's so weird. She yelled at me for no reason.